chemtrails are not confined to North America. Eyewitnesses in at least 14 countries are reporting spray activity. During 3 weeks in the winter of 1998-99, the BBC reported refrigerator trucks being used as makeshift morgues to help handle 8,100 corpses, mostly elderly, who died suddenly from influenza-like illness. But the media failed to report the giant white X's over Birmingham and London as more than 91,000 sick Britishers swamped hospitals and ambulance services. This year, the freezer trucks were back in use, in a grim repetition, said the London Telegraph, of scenes outside hospitals last winter. Once you accept that chemtrails are not contrails, the realization sinks in that the Earth and its inhabitants are being subjected to unprecedented experimentation without our knowledge or permission. In the face of official denials that anything suspicious is going on, the internet and radio airwaves are rife with anxious speculation. Some say the chemtrails are intended to kill us all. Other observers insist that the disorientation and lethargy resulting from chemtrail exposure is intended to make citizens compliant to the New World Order and enslave us all. Based on the evidence presented in this video, the producers believe that the most plausible explanation for this massive aerial spraying is a planet-wide, high-tech campaign against catastrophic climate change. If this is true, such a desperate Band-Aid solution disregards the fundamental causes of global warming in order to protect powerful financial interests by permitting pollution and profits as usual. It has been the experience of all who have reported chemtrail activity that federal, state, and provincial governments refuse to acknowledge chemtrails. Though denials come from every level, authorities responsible for public health, safety, and the environment say they will act when forced by the public to do so. If public pressure is the key, then the most effective action is to alert people to what is taking place right over their heads. Take this tape or your own footage and chemtrail photos to your local television stations. Remember, cable producers are required to broadcast local content as public service announcements. Don't be afraid to speak out. You'll be surprised how many people are noticing the unusual proliferation of jet trails but don't know what they're seeing. When enough people learn that these puzzling plumes are really chemtrails, and that we are being sprayed with unknown substances without our informed consent, the message will spread, and our leaders will be compelled to respond to the concerns of citizens who have seen for themselves the mystery lines in the sky.
Chow.
Love those dog stories.
It sounds like a government plot hatched right from the X-Files.
But some say this is fact, not fiction.
I know something is not normal, and we just want to know what it is. 98% of us die eventually.
Die, they say, from a secret program of spraying.
There's absolutely no basis to suspect that the contrails you see today are any different than they were ever before.
Eventual elimination.
I feel that what they're doing is experimenting in the disbursement of bioagents and poisonous toxins.
There are a lot of people with spare time, and sometimes they let their imagination get away with them.
God help us.
You may be wondering why one of the researchers we had there wanted us to conceal his identity. He says an intermediary told him a paid assassin for the government issued a warning that anyone who went public about chemtrail was in danger of disappearing.
Tomorrow night, only on Fox, The Skinny on fat-free food.
I first became aware of Will Thomas and his work in 1989, when my wife Sephora and I contributed a piece of street theater to a dioxin protest Will organized at a nearby pulp mill. We followed with interest his reports from Kuwait during the Gulf War, and were later deeply disturbed by the video he made documenting the oil spills and environmental destruction that was minimized by the mainstream press. Will's commitment to his work impressed me, and when he told me about chemtrails, I believed him. When my wife and I flew to England in September of 1999, I videotaped these trails from the airplane as we circled over London. I thought they might be the chemtrails Will was talking about. But all of this footage was shot purely as tourist video in Birmingham and then in London. I didn't notice the chemtrails while shooting, or even while watching the video at home. Only after we began this chemtrails video project did I really see what I had inadvertently shot in England. As an artist, I pay a lot of attention to the sky, having learned to paint clouds in considerable detail and complexity. So it came as a big surprise that I had been completely blind to what I was taping that day.
April 3rd, year 2000.
Next year, in April, we tried shooting this on-camera narration on the street in front of my house. Later that month, when I went out early to take pictures to use in my paintings, I caught this plane in the act. After 3 hours, I returned to the same spot to record the lingering plumes, still visible and slowly spreading across the sky. In June, Will and I were well into editing the footage and photos he had collected from people all over the U.S. One day I got up before dawn and noticed a series of parallel trails in the morning twilight. They stretched from directly overhead, east towards Vancouver. It was clouding over where the trails were, but to the west the sky was clear. It seemed that the planes were working east to west, following the edge of daybreak. I grabbed my camera and headed for the place we call the Maples, where there is an unobstructed view.
Well, I came down here to catch the area of blue sky thinking that this is where I would find the planes, and I did. And as they have flown over, the cloud cover has definitely moved this direction. And we'll see if another plane flies over in this clear blue area before too long, since they've been coming roughly every 15 minutes. I've seen 3 already.
It was the right idea. I set up my tripod and was able to shoot plane after plane, spraying white plumes in parallel rows that span most or all of the sky. Using my digital zoom, I captured these shots clearly showing the red stripe on the tail and 4 plumes originating from the jet engines.
Well, this one certainly looks like the streams are coming out of the engines, not the tail tips. I got 3 at once here. 3 planes at once, running parallel patterns.
Over the next 3 hours, my camera recorded the transformation from obvious man-made trails to diffuse and wispy smears that most people, just rising and heading out for their day, might likely assume are clouds, if they notice them at all. The last plane in the series was different. Only 2 plumes emerged from this aircraft, seemingly from the tips of the tail, and no red stripe was visible. This was Saturday. Sunday was completely overcast. Monday through Thursday I noticed isolated chemtrails far apart in the sky, sometimes only visible through gaps in the cloud cover.
Here we are 4 days after the last fairly intense spraying. I'm getting up here early in the morning and there's just this one lone trail across the middle of the whole breadth of the sky.
On Friday, under a bright blue sky, I returned to the Maples to document another extensive spraying session involving several planes. Since then, I have noticed chemtrails many times, not always with my camera available. As I would point chemtrails out to other people, there have been a variety of responses. Some were quick to acknowledge that they had also noticed this activity. Others reacted with stubborn skepticism or fearful denial. I have proof enough for me. There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear.